Is China truly the global powerhouse it claims to be? Now, that's a question that sparks debates and discussions around the globe. In a world where power is measured not just by military might, but also economic strength and scientific prowess, China's rise to the second rank has certainly turned heads. But does this ranking hold up under scrutiny? Let's consider the facts. When we look at the defense budget, the United States leads with an astounding $860 billion, while China trails with a much smaller sum of $230 billion. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. A closer look at GDP and nuclear weapons count paints a similar picture of disparity. Furthermore, while China boasts of its scientific achievements, the United States still holds the title for the country with the most number of scientists. So, is China's claim of being a global powerhouse just a facade? Or is there more beneath the surface that we're not seeing? So let's dive right in and unravel the truth about China's self-proclaimed status. When it comes to defense budget, the contrast between China and the USA is glaring. Let's unpack this. The United States, a global powerhouse, has a defense budget that is nearly 4 times larger than that of China. We're talking about an astonishing $860 billion, dwarfing China's budget of a mere $230 billion. This disparity in defense spending isn't just a matter of numbers. It's a reflection of the deep-rooted differences in the strategic priorities and global ambitions of these two nations. The United States, with its robust defense budget, continues to assert its position as the world's leading military power. It's a clear demonstration of its commitment to maintaining its global influence and protecting its national security interests. On the other hand, China, despite its aspirations to ascend the global power rankings, is still playing catch-up. While its defense budget might be the second largest in the world, it's still a far cry from the colossal spending of the United States. This stark contrast underscores the immense gap that China still needs to bridge to truly challenge the military dominance of the United States. But what does this all mean in the grand scheme of things? Well, it's simple. The size of a nation's defense budget is a key indicator of its military capabilities and its readiness to respond to potential threats. It's also a reflection of a nation's geopolitical ambitions and its desire to exert influence on the global stage. In this regard, the United States, with its massive defense budget, is in a league of its own. It's a testament to its unrivaled military might and its enduring status as the world's preeminent superpower. China, despite its economic prowess and growing military capabilities, is still far from matching the defense spending of the United States. Clearly, in terms of defense spending, China still has a long way to go to match up to the USA. It's not just about the money, it's about what that money represents: power, influence, and global dominance. And until China can close this gap, it will remain in the shadow of the United States, no matter how loudly it proclaims its ambitions to be a world leader. But the differences don't end with defense spending. Let's delve deeper into the economic side of things. Gross domestic product, or GDP, is a critical measure of a country's economic power. It's essentially the sum total of all goods and services produced within a nation's borders in a given year. And when we look at GDP, the USA still reigns supreme. As of this moment, the United States boasts a robust GDP of around $21 trillion. China, on the other hand, comes in at approximately $14 trillion. While this is impressive in its own right, it's clear that China still has some catching up to do. But what about nuclear capabilities? After all, in an era where military might often equates to nuclear power, this is an area we can't ignore. The United States has been a nuclear power since the mid-20th century and currently has an arsenal of approximately 6,000 warheads. China, while also a nuclear power, has a significantly smaller arsenal, estimated to be in the region of 300 warheads. These figures aren't just about bragging rights or fear-mongering. They are crucial indicators of a nation's ability to protect its interests and assert its influence on a global scale. A strong economy, represented by a high GDP, provides the resources necessary for a country to invest in technology, infrastructure, and defense. Nuclear capabilities, on the other hand, are a deterrent, a means to discourage potential threats and maintain a balance of power. Even though China has made significant strides in recent years, the gap in GDP and nuclear capabilities between the two nations is still substantial. This doesn't mean China isn't a major player on the world stage. They certainly are. But it's important to keep these differences in perspective. So, when we consider GDP and nuclear capabilities, it's evident that the USA still holds the upper hand. Despite these glaring differences, China continues to assert its position as a world leader. An interesting scenario, isn't it? A nation strutting on the world stage, beating its chest with a proclamation of superiority. But superiority based on what exactly? When we examine the metrics, the story unravels quite differently. China's defense budget, for instance, is around $230 billion. A hefty sum indeed, but it pales in comparison to the staggering $860 billion that the United States allocates for its defense. That's nearly 4 times as much. The same story repeats itself when we consider the gross domestic product, or GDP. The United States GDP far outstrips that of China. It's not a close race, it's a veritable canyon of difference. And then there's the matter of nuclear weapons. The United States, again, has a significant advantage. The number of nuclear warheads in the possession of the United States far exceeds that of China. It's not a matter of a few dozen, but hundreds, even thousands. Looking at the number of scientists, the United States has a clear lead once more. The country is a hub for scientific innovation and research, attracting the best minds from around the globe. In contrast, China, while making strides in recent years, still has a long way to go. Despite these stark disparities, China continues to claim the top spot. It's a classic case of self-perception not matching up with reality. China's claim to global leadership is not widely recognized or endorsed by other nations. Instead, it appears to be a self-proclaimed title, a chest-thumping exercise aimed at boosting national pride. So, is China really the world leader it claims to be? Or is it just a case of the emperor's new clothes?